Now, it is day one for Wilfried Nancy as Celtic manager. He inherits a side level on points with leaders Hearts, having been 8 points adrift just a month ago. Lots to discuss. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined now by former Celtic striker Chris Sutton. Good to see you, Chris. Look, Chris, before we discuss Nancy, we need to give Martin O'Neill his flowers, OK? A superb spell as interim manager. Did you expect that?
Not really, not with what Martin had to take over. Brendan Rodgers resigning. It's a team low on confidence, hadn't really played well in the early part of the season. So he was taking over a club in a bit of a mess. The angst between the supporter, a certain section of the supporters, and the board. So him coming in and to win 7 out of 8 games, to get Celtic back level on points with Hearts at the top of the table. I think they were 8 points adrift at when Martin took over, to give them hope in the Europa League now, and then to beat Rangers in the Cup semi-final. Big final coming up against St Mirren, I think, in 10 days' time. I mean, I don't think anybody would have necessarily predicted that, but he's given the team confidence and belief. And Wilfried Nancy takes over a team now who are on the up, and that confidence was there, which wasn't there when Martin O'Neill took over.
In terms of the announcement of when they announced Nancy, this was, what, an hour or so before kick-off last night. Was there any part of you that was concerned it may be a distraction at all?
Not really, because I think it was, this appointment was doing the rounds for a long time. Everybody knew Wilfried Nancy was going to come in. It was just about sort of dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I think everybody thought that Dundee would have been the game when Wilfried Nancy started, and Martin O'Neill had those 3 tough away games to navigate, which he navigated superbly. But he's in now, and as I say, he's taking over a team in a much better position than they were 5 weeks ago. OK, so look, first day in the office for Nancy. What does he do? Does he pick up the phone to O'Neill and say, a bit of advice would be great, or does he put his own stamp on the team? Well, I think he can do both. I think he will have his own idea and philosophy and way of playing, of course. But I think he would be foolish not to pick Martin O'Neill's brains, and just on how he sees this current squad at this moment in time. I know Martin is on record as saying he thinks there needs to be additions in January. I would certainly agree with that. But Wilfried Nancy will be his own man. But why wouldn't you touch on somebody with Martin O'Neill's experience? He should be picking his brains.
The timing, perfect time to come in there when you consider Hearts and Rangers struggling a little bit.
It's a perfect. I'm probably better to answer that in a week's time or 2 weeks' time. I think that, look, the pressure's on from the start. He has to hit the ground running. Everybody knows that. I think Martin's shoes are massive shoes to fill, and Celtic fans can look at Hearts and look at Rangers, but Celtic have got a really sort of tricky run of fixtures coming up. Massive game against Hearts on Sunday. I cannot wait for that. And then Roma in the Europa League, the League Cup final. So it's a massive 10 days for Wilfried Nancy. And the difficulty he's going to have is taking over a team which has found a way to win games. But he will have his way of playing, his style of football, which he wants to implement. But Celtic have got 7 games until the new year in a short space of time, 3 games a week. So it's going to be really difficult for Wilfried Nancy to get on the training ground and work and implement his ideas, which is, it's going to be fascinating. He'll have his own way of playing. But would you really want to change things too much of what has worked for Martin O'Neill and his team in recent weeks? And that's Wilfried Nancy's dilemma.
Yeah, and you mentioned the new year. So just how important is the January transfer window then, Chris?
I think it's everything. I think the team out of Celtic, Rangers and Hearts who has the best January in terms of bringing transfers in wins the Scottish Premiership.
OK. How many trophies he's got to win to make it a successful season?
Have you been to Glasgow? He needs to win the lot. Certainly. So, look, the truth is, now Martin O'Neill is done so well, that expectation would have grown. But if I was a Celtic fan, before Martin O'Neill came in and all the sort of issues at the start of the season, I would have just taken winning the Scottish Premiership. But now, because of the team's improvement, I think Celtic fans will, will be thinking, well, why not the treble and progress in Europe? That was the big thing this season, progress in Europe. The club haven't really seen that. But Wilfried Nancy, with the expectation which there is at Celtic, he knows what he's coming into. It's a really difficult job. It's a lovely job when things are going well, but aren't all jobs.
Oh, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you.